All right. Hello. I hope you're doing awesome. And yeah, know that you're not alone. It takes a lot of. Remember these guys, X-Files? Always seeking the truth, even when it's impossible. Yeah, we're not in a movie. This is not a movie. This is real life. This is real stuff happening. And the denial energy is incredible. Not looking into it, not wanting to see, because it disrupt your comfortability, it disrupt your ignorance, it disrupt your comfortability with ignorance, misogyny, and racism, right? I have a couple of videos to show you. I do have a message for a lot of you. I don't know if this is take or risk and leave or doesn't, but everything is done for a reason. Please make sure you like, comment, and share and subscribe, okay? This definitely is going to be suppressed, especially these two other messages that I have. I had to write it down because it was... So, this not gonna... It's just like confirmation for a lot of you, because a lot of you, it's just like a lot of multiple war crimes are happening at the same time, and it is intentional. It's for a lot of us. They're trying to tire all those who are speaking the truth, who are dealing with a lot, especially with the gaslighting, which has come to another level. You're also noticing that a lot of people, especially this, like Father God keeps saying that guy, the conservative here in Canada, who he's in denial of genocide, you should not have that person in our Canada. Like, he should be deported or whatever. Like, he keeps saying, like, that is a serious, lethal, vile demon. And he's here in Canada. So there's some petitions in the description below for a lot of y'all to sign if you're a Canadian or a permanent resident, okay? Another thing, I'm kind of disappointed a little bit because I want to vote for the NDP and all their other independents, but I don't want my vote to go to waste. Especially because these people are just doing stuff that is kind of... What are you doing? Why are you using lying? Why are you using the same colonizer tactic to have credibility? Like, use your own vulnerability. Use your own stories as someone who is unoppressed and struggling, right? But so far, the Green Party and the NDP is just... I honestly, the red line for all of us should be vote not conservative, right? Like, if we have to do liberals, then it's just what it is, you know? But it's not just what it is, because these people have genocidal curse stuff. Like, this is what Trudeau legacy he left behind, right? And now, I mean, we're hoping this Carney guy, like, so far he's been like, okay, wait, like, I just got here and I see what's going on. But still nothing of, you know, being against genocide, just like Canada here, you know, recognizing that, you know, and a lot of us, these are people uneducated and have a lot of work to do, okay? So for a lot of us, this April 28th, if you feel like when you look at the communities, like that, there's a website that I need to show you guys. I'll try to find it and I'll put it in the description here, okay? Where you see, it's called Smart Vote or something, and you see that in your community, most people are voting liberals, and you see that the NDP is really low and stuff like that, because right now, and I feel like it's intentional, you know, it's intentional that they don't have the right funding, they don't have the right tools to be better and stuff like that. Like, it is intentional. Like, these two parties, and intentional, the corporation keep them there because they do endorse capitalism, right? They want to maintain a system like this, while the other parties are against a lot of things. They want... But another thing I need to make sure that you guys understand, please, please, please use the discernment with this and when you're voting, okay? Conservatives, they don't give a fuck about people with disabilities. As someone who is a caregiver, that's a problem for me. So a lot of you, please, we know that people with disability, trans people, LGBTQ, deserve their rights. Please do not vote for conservatives, okay? Please. Conservative comes in a long lineage of colonizers who hate fucking indigenous. Obviously, we have one who literally is denying residential schools and genocide. we've been trying to bring this to education, and we finally have accomplished that. And now a lot of people are educated, and this is pissing off most of conservatives. Conservatives doesn't give a fuck about people. They only care about money, their own interests, and their own, you know, they don't give a fuck if the whole planet gets destroyed and people all die. So be careful with that. Don't fucking vote for Nazis. That's really what I'm saying. Conservatives the same energy as fucking Republicans right now in the USA, and that's what I'm here for. There's something that I need to, Father God wants to confirm. So for a lot of us Canadian, if you don't have any other options, if you see the NDP and the Green Party, it's not really, they should. A lot of us should be shifting from liberals to there. But you're seeing that a lot of people are not. It's obviously it's intentional, right? We don't have a lot of time to talk about this in politics and stuff like that and educate people better, right? But one thing you have to understand that, yes, the liberal did a lot of fucked up shit in the years behind. And this is our job to educate and change laws and work on this, okay? So if right now the NDP is kind of misleading and doing a lot of misleading things, so that they could win instead of being truthful, instead of like standing on their morals and their activism, right? Because as we see, I told you guys in the website, most of these beautiful MPs are pledging for voting for against the genocide, right? So if we have people like that, there's no reason, hope, don't lose the hope for that. You can educate them better. They could pledge, okay? Make sure that liberals are pledging to this, okay? A lot of us, that's our job, that we need to be enforcing this. We need to be educating them, okay? For most of them, they're not going to pledge because it's not financially, economically for them, right? So there is money into being for genocide, right? But also there's some type of intense blackmail. Father God wants to make sure of that, okay? This message is for some of you specific, okay? First, I got the message, the channel message, and this was the 6th of the 4th of April, 2025. This is timeless, but it's something that will repeat itself again. So, I don't know, he kept saying they will repeat because a lot of people are not learning the karmic lesson. And it needs to be being aware and acknowledged so that way people can have the, how do you say, have the capability to be educated and be aware, and then they can make better decisions, okay? Okay, so he said, okay, so the first channel, he said, depart not from the path which fate has you assigned. You know how God, Spirit, talks in parables. It's a message that is going to resonate with some people and some may not. If it did resonate with you, go take it to God, go talk to him. What did he mean about that? And then I'm going to tell you what it's about. Maybe some of you need to be doing research. Maybe you just started doing research about this. Maybe you're being like giving you signs and dreams and you're like, why am I thinking about this? Like, it's not even my problem. It is your problem. God is making it your problem. Yes. Depart not from the path which fate has you assigned. Okay. Okay, so something about the Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever, Hungary, allowing Netanyahu, Israel has blackmailed them. Something about blackmail. So, you know, recently Belgium guy, Hungary, whatever, he was like, oh, he can come in, he's not going to get arrested. He came out of the ICCJ where he's supposed to be arrested. Father God said Israel has blackmailed him. So in the past, they have either a video or something that belongs to, they can incriminate him, they can embarrass him. This was done strategically. So this was done years ago. So they knew that during this time when they've been planning this genocide for a long time, okay? So especially Netanyahu, this motherfucker who is literally Satan himself. A lot of you don't see it, but a lot of us who are light workers, who are in this work, we see it right through. Satan lives in this body. Just like Hitler. Just like all the genocidal. All the evil that you can think of, that you have seen so far, right? For the past 17 months. Yeah. A lot of you guys don't want to see it. Like, oh, that's not possible. Yeah. Demons can literally go inside a person who has no soul or heart, who lacks empathy.
The information war that you are seeing play out in this country right now is the spiritual war. And it's spiritual because of the way information changes us on a conscious level. And it's the main reason why the US government is desperately trying to stop the flow of information, specifically when it comes to Israel and Palestine. Israel and Palestine has always come down to an information war. The United States of America and Israel have always held the power to control this narrative, except for this moment right now, where you have Palestinians in Gaza who are documenting their genocide, right? And then they're uploading these videos onto the internet and sharing it with the entire world. You have Palestinians in the West Bank who are documenting the occupation and the settler violence that they experience by Israelis. And then they're uploading those videos onto the internet. They're sharing information. They're writing stories. They're writing articles, and they're sharing this information for the entire world. And we as Americans are being forced to question our morality. We can just go onto a Palestinian journalist's Instagram and see at any moment where our tax dollars are going. And we can see that it's going to kill people. Our tax dollars are going to kill these people, and we can just see it at any given moment, at any given time. And this has never happened before. And this information is changing people. It is changing Americans. It's changing Americans who are conservative and liberals, because at the end of the day, not many people want to see children die like this. Information has always been incredibly valuable, and it's why those in power don't want us to have it. For example, Coca-Cola's very first formula had cocaine in it until information and news spread that cocaine was harmful and causing all these addiction issues, and then the public demanded that Coca-Cola remove cocaine from its drink. It's why for decades gas and oil companies knew that burning fossil fuels was harmful, and instead of doing something to prevent it and stop burning fossil fuels, they spent billions of dollars denying climate change. They know that information can change us because it forces us. It forces us to change policies, to change the way we behave. It forces us to be confronted with the truth. And with that truth, we have to do the right thing. Just today, the federal government announced that they are going to monitor the social media accounts of immigrants because they're looking for anti-Semitism, aka anything that is pro-Palestinian. And you have to take a moment to ask yourself, why are they desperately trying to prevent us from knowing the truth and from having this information? And it's because they know that we would stop it. They know that we would stop them from killing people, and they don't want us to make them stop.
Demons cannot survive with someone who has empathy. It's that simple. They cannot survive with people who care about other people. They cannot survive with someone who is not racist. They have to be racist. Used to say, the truth is out there. You're looking for the truth? You've been getting it. Go check my Telegram. Go check my reposts on TikTok. You've been getting it for 17 months now. And we all need to be doing something. A lot of you guys, you are demon slayers and you're not doing the fucking work. A lot of you, you're light workers for fucking bullshit kakalaka. You're not doing the fucking work. Anyways, meanwhile, other people are going to continue doing it no matter what. No matter what we lose, it doesn't matter. Sacrifices need to be made for the greater good of the truth. And those who we need to stop this genocide. We need to stop this. I never, like, in my Telegram, I'm just, like, we're not supposed to be okay right now watching a live genocide. Like, literally, someone said it the other day, and I was like, that's it. That's what happened. We are literally in the past of the Holocaust, the concentration camp, just with a phone and our camera. We're literally watching what happened in those concentration camps. On live, online. And we're still not doing anything. We're still silent. A lot of you, you're still silent. Yo, a lot of you, you're not going to survive the shame and the guilt. A lot of you. A lot of us, we're kind of like robots right now. Like, especially me, I'm a caregiver. So I have to cry before and also a single mom. So I have to cry and deal with my emotions before I'm with my kids. So mentally okay, but not okay. And sometimes it's very difficult. I'm not a robot, okay? Sometimes I just have to let it go. My kids are like, you know, and they know that mommy cares, and that mommy will never lose their heart, will never lose her empathy. That's why when we go shopping, we do the boycott together. We work on it. We know we're breaking generational curses. Just like crow just happens. A lot of you, your ancestors are guiding you through this. Your kids are protecting you and all that stuff. A lot of y'all. But also as a caregiver, when I'm with our clients, I cannot bring or have that sadness or stuff like that. And even though, you know, even people with this, they know, they feel it. They know that something is wrong. They know. And that's true. Everywhere you can go, educate people. You never know. And it's beautiful. Like a lot of people, you will see that even though they were in that lack, apathy, they right away, it's like you see it. It's like, wait, why don't I not care about that? That's weird. And then you see them deprogram it and the whole illusion, and it's beautiful to see. That's why educate others, but educate yourself first and know that you're going to make mistakes. For a lot of us, it's different. We get literally channel messages, dreams, and intuitive notches and psychic, and also while dealing with spiritual warfare, psychological warfare, and all that shit together with other people as well, because we are connected. We're not separated. But I know my task and my purpose is different. This is why taking some time, you know, but not really letting go. Like, okay, I'm going to take a little pause, but I'm going to go back and be there. I'm going to be a witness. I'm going to validate these people suffering and hurt, because it's not right. This is not right. We should not normalize this. And they're trying to normalize it. Why do you think he went to the USA again? Just to make sure that he's bargain and he's whatever blackmail that he has on everybody. And I'm not making excuses for these evil people who accept this blackmail and bragging or whatever, but there's something that Netanyahu has made sure that he has. By the way, it comes from Einstein. Remember that pedophile with his houses and stuff like that, and all these people went to these parties? Einstein was part of that plan. That's why they're not releasing all the files and everything, because Trump is in that as well. There's a lot of incriminated stuff in those. Einstein was part of it. He recorded them doing really fucked up shit with, you know what, kids, children and stuff. I know Trudeau doesn't want people to talk about this, but he's there too. That's why he's ashamed. The guilt and shame, it's hard. So yeah, this Hungary guy as well, he's there. There's something that he has against them. For some of them, it's not. Some of them, they're really like, oh no, he's paying me money, he's making me money. But money's not even from him. It's the USA who's giving him money. This guy's broke, by the way. Broke as fuck. Israel's broke as fuck. And it's going down now. They're broke. So where is this money coming from? Who has billions of dollars who can give to other people? Starts with an oligarch energy. These people, politicians, are their puppets. Are you getting it yet? You see why we have to change system and why billionaires in Israel should not exist? This is their playground. In Palestine, it's literally where they test their bombs. They don't care who is there. That's why they dehumanize it and degrade them. And us, who cares, who have empathy, we should care. And that's wrong, right? Inhumane, right? So he says he has something on them that can destroy their reputation and their life forever. Either they were tricked to do something disgusting, or were forced to do it and record on video to incriminate them. So there's a video, there's stuff like, you know, how we have video of evidence of genocide and all of that. And a lot of us in denial and stuff like that. So they are scared because they know that if these videos or whatever that incriminates them on whatever happened, that Netanyahu and Trump has as well. But Netanyahu has stuff on Trump as well. Don't let it get. And I'm not endorsing, I don't give a fuck about. I just hope that that's what he's using. These are his hostages. Netanyahu, Satan, Yahoo. He has them on a leash. These politicians are his hostages. But the call is from a higher ground. It's not just, Netanyahu is not working by himself. He just has the proof. Duh. Okay, so it says, criminate them. Blackmail with the atomic bombs. I already showed you that video before, not before this one. Like, there's another video. I'll try to find and put it in the comments or description below. And kill their loved ones. So they're being blackmailed that the Netanyahu or IOF, the same thing that, you know, the IOF, the demonic people are doing to the Palestinians. He's threatening them that he's gonna do it to them, to their families and stuff like that. So yeah, he's a real thug, a real criminal terrorist. Like, Father God said, very low IQ, mentally unstable, psychotic. Most people who violate their integrity for him, he has something on them. So most people who violate their integrity and side with this asshole, he has something on them. Okay? So here are the videos.
Tony's boss at the Israel Project used to work at AIPAC, where debate about Israel's actions or Palestinian rights were rarely prominent.
Does the war of ideas matter? I don't know. I know that, like, getting $38 billion in security aid to Israel matters, which is what AIPAC just did, what I'm proud to have been a part of for so long. My job was basically to convince students that participating in the war of ideas on campus is actually a distraction. You can hold up signs and have rallies on campus, but the Congress gets $3.1 billion a year for Israel. Everything AIPAC does is focused on influencing Congress. Congress is where you have leverage, so you can't influence the President of the United States directly, but the Congress can.
AIPAC is very interested in making sure that every representative and every senator toes the line on Israel. And it is highly effective in that regard. That's why it's considered to be synonymous in many people's heads with the lobby.
AIPAC's website shows members of Congress attending its conferences and declaring their support for Israel.
And on behalf of Congress, thank you for sending a clear and unequivocal message to the world that the United States stands with Israel now, tomorrow, and always.
I reject the BDS movement, whether it be on campuses in France and London or right here in the United States of America.
To get elected in the American political system, you need lots of money. What AIPAC does is it makes sure that money is funneled your way if you're seen as pro-Israel, and it'll go to significant lengths to make sure that you stay in office if you continue to be staunchly pro-Israel.
May God bless Israel. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you so much. Thank you.
They have questionnaires. Anybody running for Congress is expected to fill out a questionnaire. And they evaluate the depth of your commitment to Israel on the basis of that questionnaire. Then you have an interview with local people. If you get AIPAC support, then more often than not, you're going to win.
Jim Moran is a Democrat who represented a congressional district in Northern Virginia.
You realize it's not just the money, it's the number of concerned activists. They'll send out postcards, they'll make phone calls, they'll organize. I mean, that's the democratic process. They understand the democratic process.
We made sure that there were people in every single congressional district. And then you'd call them up and say, I'm calling from AIPAC in Washington. I did these calls. We hear that you're good friends with Congressman so-and-so. Oh my God, yes. We've been friends since elementary school. Well, what does he think about Israel? I never talked to him about Israel. Well, can I come down and talk to you and help you figure out a way to talk to him about Israel? No, just tell me. What should I say? I don't have to. I'll just tell him.
Our undercover reporter wanted to learn more about how funding is secured for congressmen.
Speaking of the devil.
David Oakes, a prominent pro-Israel advocate, invited Tony to a fundraising event. Oakes later called him to discuss the details.
Is it just a social event?
No, hold on. I'm going to email you a list of the people that this group supports. This is the biggest ad hoc political group, and definitely the wealthiest in D.C. Hold on. Mark Kirk, the senator from Illinois. Ted Deutsch from Florida. Barbara Comstock, she's the congressman from Virginia. Richard Byrd from North Carolina. Kelly Ayotte, she's fantastic. She's in the Arms Committee. They'll walk in the room and they'll say everything here is off the record. And then they'll say, here's a little bit about me, and then people will ask very specific questions.
The fundraiser was being held in a wealthy suburb of Washington.
The APAC group, it makes a difference. It really, really does. It's the best bang for your buck, and the networking is phenomenal. Congressmen and senators don't do anything unless you pressure them. They kick the can down the road unless you pressure them. And the only way to do that is with money.
لا إله إلا الله 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 لا يبقى شيء يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا مغيث يا مغيث يا الله يا الله
I'm an indigenous, and that's why I'm speak up to my brothers and sisters and siblings in Palestine. This is the same issue. Colonizers are killing our indigenous peoples, taking our resources, our lands, and they're trying to destroy everything.
Where'd you travel from today?
Phoenixville, Pennsylvania.
We came down from New York City, from Brooklyn.
So what would you say to American people who may not grasp why we should be concerned about Palestine?
Well, Dr. Martin Luther King said during the Vietnam War that the bombs that fall in Vietnam also explode in our communities here. And that's just as true today. They would rather bomb hospitals in Gaza than build hospitals here. They would rather bomb schools in Gaza. They're laying off healthcare workers here, and they're murdering healthcare workers in Gaza. And every bomb, every missile, every plane, every white phosphorus shell comes from the United States.
But why did you come all the way here from Los Angeles for today's demonstration?
I think right now, especially given the repression and the attacks we're seeing on our movement, I think it's especially important that we show that our movement is not going to back down, that we refuse to be divided, that we refuse to be silenced. The only reason that this repression on our movement is happening is because we've grown and we've been able to, launch campaigns, to boycott, to grow our movement, to bring millions of new people into our movement. And so this is going to be a testament to that.
Atlanta, Georgia. My Teamster, organized labor needs to be out here and stand in solidarity with people, with all oppressed people.
When you think about labor, you think about the basic solidarity. Entry to one is an entry to all. And we have our labor siblings over in Palestine, the Palestine General Federation of Trade Unions, and they have put out a call for solidarity for labor, and it's imperative that we answer that call.
I organize with a solidarity organization called Agents for Palestine, DMV. A lot of our countries have a very complicated relationship with imperialism, specifically Western imperialism, and so it's really important to be showing up for not just Palestine, but other liberation movements throughout the world.
Stop bombing Palestine, Yemen, Sudan, Lebanon, Syria, all of them.
Free Mahmoud Khalil.
We want a permanent ceasefire, but we also need an arms embargo.
Arms embargo now, open the corridors and let food in because they're starving the people to death. And we need money for jobs and housing and schools and education, not endless war and not genocide.
Top 10 things God's chosen lunatics don't want you to know. They asked this guy to be president, but he was like, hell no. In his letter to the New York Times, describes the Zionist party as fascist. The first airline in the Middle East was Palestine Airways. The Star of David, named after King David, who's a prophet of Allah in the Quran. He's also the father of Solomon. This thing is also called the Seal of Solomon, the second biggest charity in America. Before the Red Cross, the Israel Affinity Organizations. The French colonized Morocco. They asked the King Mohammed, deport all the Jews. which he replied, "There is no Jews here, only Moroccans," saving at least 250,000 from mustache men. The percentage of violence in the Torah is 5.3, the Bible is 2.8, the Quran the least violent with 2.1%. Martin Luther, founder of Lutheranism, the official religion in Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, wrote a book called The Jews and Their Lies. There are dozens of Ford dealerships in Israel. Ford, the same guy who distributed 600,000 copies, his weekly newspaper, The International Jew, in his dealership. The number one cause of kids being unalived in a single day this year is Israel.
What is this video? It's the IDF detaining 2 school-age children in the West Bank for walking on a street that is designated for Jewish only. Imagine the police arresting children in your community for walking on the wrong street. The wrong street. Apartheid is not some abstract term. This is it, right here. A government that strips children of their freedom because of who they are. Where segregated streets exist. Not in 1960s Alabama, but right here and now in occupied Palestine. And somehow the world calls this a democracy. Somehow the people defending this want to talk about shared values. There is nothing normal about arresting children for existing. There's nothing moral about roads that are for specific ethnicities only. There is no justification for silence about this. If watching this makes you feel uncomfortable, it should. Discomfort is the first step towards justice. Don't look away. Say something. This is apartheid.
Do you know what disingenuous bullshit it is to say that the ceasefire deal collapsed? That's not what happened. What happened is Israel elected to continue its campaign of slaughter. To maintain its campaign of slaughter. Not even to resume. To call it a resumption would be inaccurate because the Israeli occupation force never stopped killing people in either the West Bank or Gaza. Seeing this framing around the collapse of the ceasefire deal, like we didn't witness hundreds of civilians being murdered and brutalized in the context of the ceasefire deal by the Israeli occupation force, is so intellectually and politically dishonest. It is so ethically and morally corrupt to co-sign that framing. Don't talk to me about a collapse. Name who sabotaged it. Name who is on a killing spree. Name the dead. Name which people are being actively murdered. Look at the count of the dead and talk to me about ceasefire collapse. It's embarrassing to frame this as anything but what it is, which is an overt, violent land grab. Collective punishment, genocidal human rights abuses. And I'm not just talking about genocide as in the death of the people, I'm talking about genocide as in the removal of a culture. Libraries, monuments, places of education, never mind the hospitals, which would be devastating enough. Never mind the individual deaths, which would be devastating enough. Never mind the mass displacement and the ethnic cleansing, which again would be devastating enough. Collapse of a ceasefire deal, that framing, when one side's entire ethnicity and history is being razed from the earth. Be real. Be honest. Free Palestine.
Interesting that all the blue MAGA creeps that were crying and whining because I criticized Cory Booker have had nothing to say about an American, a Palestinian American, who was just murdered by the IOF. And guess where he's from, and guess who didn't make a statement about it? Well, would you look at that? He's from New Jersey. Who's the senator from New Jersey? Right. Nothing. He has said nothing about this child's death. This child, who is an American citizen, is from New Jersey, despite the fact that other congresspeople and the governor of New Jersey have put out statements. If you are an American, it is never safe to travel to the Israeli regime or to Palestine in any capacity, because our country does not care if the Israeli regime kills you. They just don't. If something happens to an American citizen in North Korea, like what happened to Otto Warmbier, you better believe the U.S. is going after them. If something happens to an American in Russia, you better believe the U.S. is going after that shit. If an American citizen, though, gets killed by the IOF in the Israeli regime or in Palestine, The US ain't gonna do shit for you. This was something that genuinely shocked me when I first found out about it, when I first realized it. Now, obviously, it's not new, but I had only recently in the last year or so learned about what happened to Rachel Corrie. And then, of course, the fact that there was no justice for Shireen Abu Akleh, who was also an American citizen, or the American that was killed in the World Central Kitchen attack. So don't you dare think that just because you're an American citizen or hold an American passport, that means that you're going to be protected. You won't be, because you know who else had nothing to say about the murder of this boy? Of course, because he met with Netanyahu this week and said nothing. When asked on Tuesday about Amir's death by the Israeli military, they did not acknowledge him by name. Okay, listen to this ridiculous joke of a lie statement from the IOF. During a counter-terrorism activity in the area of Termasaya, IOF soldiers identified 3 terrorists who hurled rocks toward the highway, thus endangering civilians. Okay, pause. First of all, we already know what's happening here, right? They're lying and saying that because everything we don't like is terrorist. They literally call everyone terrorist. Everything is a terrorist. The lamppost is a terrorist. The car, the highway is a terrorist. The rock is a terrorist. Everything to the IOF is Hamas and a terrorist, okay? So just know that. That's what they use every single fucking time. When they killed Shireen Abu Akleh, that's the exact same thing that they use. They use the exact same line, the exact same lie. And then months later, they quietly came out and were like, yeah, it was the IOF. Also, even if let's just say that it was true that the boys were hurling rocks at them, let's just say that that was true. That's not a should not be a death sentence. You don't get to kill someone because they threw a pebble, bro. The soldiers opened fire toward the terrorists who were endangering civilians, eliminating one of the terrorists and hitting the additional terrorist. How many times can you use terrorists in one fucking statement, bro? Like, they think if they just repeat the word over and over again that we're gonna forget that they murdered a teenager. Ayub Jabara, one of the teenagers that was with Amir on Sunday, was shot 3 times but managed to flee and find help, according to the statement from the community center, whose members spoke to the Ayub's family. Surveillance footage showed that the soldiers fired 47 shots at the 3 boys that were picking almonds, according to the statement. So that's what really happened, and that's what always happens. The boys were minding their own fucking business, they were picking some almonds, and the cowards, the actual terrorists, the IOF, shot at them 47 times. It's a minor miracle that the other boys survived. When asked about it in the briefing, Bruce, whose job it also is to do propaganda and protect the Israeli regime, these were teenagers, Mrs. Bruce said. She noted that reports that the Israeli military believed that they were stopping an act of terrorism. Really? Yeah, kind of like what they said about Shireen Abu Akleh and what they say about literally everyone. This is a lawless regime, folks. Absolutely fucking lawless. We need to learn much more about the nature of what happened on the ground. That's funny. You're right. You know what we do? By the way, how is that investigation into the murder of Aishinor going? Because that's the exact same shit that Jake Sullivan and all the hacks under the Biden administration said when Aishinor, another American, was killed by the IOF. You guys were looking into it. How long are we looking into it? Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman of New Jersey called Amir's death an atrocity in a social media post on Monday. The state's governor, Philip D. Murphy, demanded in a statement that the Israeli government provide answers about why Amir had been killed, lamenting the tragic loss of life. What you don't see there is Cory Booker. There absolutely should be a full investigation into this, but given the history of how this stuff works, there probably won't be. Which is why I would advise again to my fellow Americans not to travel there. Now, Amir had been living there, okay? So his family, he's from New Jersey, but his family moved to the occupied West Bank in 2013. And by the way, the friends that he was with were also American, okay? So just remember that. Just keep that in mind. You having an American passport, if you are Arab, if you are Palestinian, will not protect you. And honestly, even if you're white, it won't protect you. Just ask the guy from the World Central Kitchen. I am devastated for Amir's family. It is absolutely deplorable. It is disgusting. And I, for one, don't want to be fucking allied with anyone that gets away with killing an American citizen.
Let's talk about dogs. You probably love them. I know I do. For us, they're loyal companions, sources of joy, and even family. But for countless Palestinians, dogs have become instruments of terror, inflicting some of the most brutal and dehumanizing violence imaginable. The Israeli army systematically uses dogs to brutalize Palestinians, including children, the elderly, and detainees, sometimes with fatal consequences. A breaking investigation by SOMO exposes not only the scale of these abuses, from violent home raids to sexualized violence in prisons, but also a key enabler: the Netherlands. One Dutch company, Four Winds K9, has spent decades supplying attack dogs to Israel. By 2016, they provided 90% of the dogs used by the IDF, even granting Israel first choice in selecting them. Incredibly, the export of trained military dogs is almost entirely unregulated. It's treated like the export of pets, not weapons. And despite mounting evidence of complicity in war crimes, the Dutch government has refused to change this. Now, SOMO and 9 Palestinian and Dutch civil society organizations are suing the Dutch state, demanding it meet its obligations under international law and stop exporting dogs used to facilitate war crimes and genocide. But I'm not making this video just to inform. We live in an internet saturated with dog content. Memes, loving tributes, massive accounts built on the joy they bring. My hope is that those same people who love dogs enough to share their stories will also share this one. That they will speak out, make their own content, and pressure the Netherlands and other governments to stop turning these animals we cherish so much into weapons of apartheid. No one who values dogs as well as human rights should stay silent while that happens.
وين الضمير الحي؟ أنا بطالب السيد الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي هو الوحيد اللي هو اللي قادر يحلنا. السيد الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي حلنا بعرض الله، جيب لنا مية بس مية، إحنا بنموت حلونا يا عالم، حلونا. وصلوا صوتنا، هذا المقطع بدي اياه يصل. وصلوا صوتنا للناس اللي عايشه في قطر، للناس اللي عايشه في تركيا، للقيادات كلها. الشعب بموت، الشعب بموت، احنا بنموت يا عالم، احنا بنموت يا عالم، احنا بنموت.
Hey, hi, hello. You can't be neutral in times of oppression. You either stand with the oppressed in their struggles against their oppressors in whatever form those might take, or you stand with the oppressor. There is flat out no such thing as not taking a side, because that very act of trying to stay out of it, of trying to keep your head down and not rock the boat, supports the status quo through your inaction. By refusing to fight back against injustice, you are supporting its existence. It was Elie Wiesel who had said, wherever people are persecuted because of their race, religion, or political views, that place at that moment must become the center of the universe. Right? Because none of us are free unless all of us are free. And as a final reminder, communities living under systems of oppression, communities living under occupation, communities living under threat of genocide have a legal and moral right to fight back against that using any and all means at their disposal, including but not limited to violent armed resistance. And at no point in that struggle do you have the right to tell them how they are allowed to resist their oppressors. And as always, have a day.
Elbit Systems is not only Israel's largest arms company, but also one of Israel's largest companies overall. The way that Elbit Systems developed this niche in the arms industry is to develop a monopoly over the sale of very specific types of electronic systems, guidance systems, navigation systems, which they sell under a 5-year contract or a 10-year contract, and they offer a very good price. After this period elapses, they double the price. And then the Greek Air Force stands before an impossible decision because they've become dependent on these sophisticated electronic systems that only Elbit Systems knows how to maintain and operate. They become captives of Elbit Systems. And I think this is exactly the moment in which the Israeli government can say, you know what, we're going to fly through your territorial airspace and you need to violate international law and let Netanyahu fly through Greek territory. If you don't like it, your Air Force is going to be grounded because we're taking out Elbit Systems. When you make a deal with the devil, you find yourself in an unpleasant situation.
Hey, if you're an American, do you even know that your country just bombed the capital of Yemen 70 times today, hitting its civilian infrastructure, schools, daycare, shopping malls like the one I'm in? Do you even know that? Do you even care? All because Yemen is blockading the Red Sea from cargo ships being allowed in to Israel. Like, I literally can't stop thinking about it. They're killing thousands of people, destroying hundreds of homes, hundreds of buildings of civilian infrastructure for what? And guess what? They're still not going to stop the blockade. Like, what? This is Yemen we're talking about. It really is just another front of the Arab and Muslim genocide. Most people, I swear, don't know at all what their government is doing. Like, there's no justification that you can make for doing this to Yemeni civilians. If Arab civilians are terrorists because of what their governments do, what does that make American civilians?
April 8th and April 9th of 1948 will forever be etched in the collective memories of Palestinians and in the history of Palestine itself. On April the 8th, 1948, the Battle of Kastel was lost and the Zionists were able to capture the village. During the battle, commander of the Palestinian forces, Abdelkader al-Husseini, was killed. That loss enabled the Zionist terrorist forces to advance towards Jerusalem. They had taken several villages along the way, on their way to take the city. One of these villages that is very well known is the village of Lifta. It was a large village, one of the wealthiest communities in the area, and it was continuously inhabited from the 7th century until April of 1948. On April the 9th, the Zionist terrorist forces entered the village of Dir Yassin and committed one of the most horrendous massacres one can imagine. The massacre went on for several days, and at the end, the survivors were taken in trucks and paraded throughout the city, and the orphans who survived the massacre were taken and dumped near the old city of Jerusalem. It was thanks to the great generosity and care of Hind al-Husseini that these orphans were taken and cared for, and she built the Dar al-Tifl al-Arabi, which still exists today, and originally was an orphanage and a school for these children. The genocide of the Palestinian people did not begin recently. It is part of a long and well-planned strategy, and that the Palestinian people have been subjected to these horrors, to this genocide for many, many decades. The horror of the massacre in Dir Yassin was such that even the Zionist establishment found it necessary to condemn it. They tried to condemn it and to distance themselves from the forces that committed the massacre, even though, of course, the Zionist establishment was responsible for it. Later on, the Zionist terrorist forces throughout Palestine used what happened in Dir Yassin as a warning to Palestinians elsewhere to say, if you do not evacuate, if you do not leave, you will see the same fate as Dir Yassin. So please remember the stories, share them, and do everything you can to bring about the liberation of Palestine and the return of the Palestinian refugees.
Waving a gun is safer than waving a Palestinian flag in America. Hi CNTV, you can buy an AR-15 in just 15 minutes in the US. But speak out for Palestine? You'd be shocked at what they do to shut you up.
Content violation.
This Indian student was arrested for what ICE calls Hamas propaganda, but in reality, all he did was post pro-Palestine tweets and marry a Palestinian woman. And he's not the only one being bullied into silence. This Jewish woman was just fired from her job at a private college for screening the film Israelism. Rumeysa wrote an op-ed criticizing Israel more than a year ago. Masked agents snatched her off the street and flew her to an ICE detention center. Last year, a 23-year-old Palestinian-American student was stabbed because he had Palestine stickers on his car. And finally, Mahmoud Khalil, a legal US resident who held peaceful negotiations at Columbia University, was arrested by ICE, and he's been in detention for over a month. They call the US the land of the free. Just don't say free Palestine.
So Trump literally posted on Truth Social and was like, this is a great time to buy. He literally told you what to do.
Did you do it then? Are you super rich now, or are you just finding a convenient narrative to justify his actions
after the fact. Did he say that before he crashed the market? Or did he say, no, these tariffs are definitely long-term, permanent, here to stay, definitely for the purpose of reinvigorating the economy by bringing production back to the United States of America? That's what he said, right? And that's what people believed, which is why they started selling their stocks at a loss in an attempt to try and preserve their life savings. That's what makes the market go down, right? Is American people losing their money. And now you're trying to rewrite it as some sort of brilliant Robin Hood-esque attempt to help the people get rich. This plan you claim was to help people make money, required people to lose money in order to work. I think the most exhausting thing about this president is his followers' willingness to keep retroactively rewriting what they say they believe and pretending that they believe that all along. First, you believe the tariffs were a tax on foreign countries and were just going to be extra revenue for America. Then the tariffs were actually a brilliant strategy to bring other countries to the negotiating table in order to make deals. Then the tariffs were actually a brilliant strategy to try and increase domestic production and bring jobs back to America, which would serve the American people long term. Now the tariffs were actually just a brilliant ploy to deliberately crash the stock market in order to wink, wink, nudge, nudge at people through the medium of Truth Social so you could all get rich. I wonder if in the privacy of your own mind, you people admit to yourself that the fact that you have to keep retroactively reinterpreting what this guy is doing means that none of what this guy is doing actually makes any sense to you either. And now you're so committed to supporting him, it's become part of your identity, and you'd rather go down with the ship than just acknowledge that what this was really just a person in power using their power to help their friends steal from the people.
Capitalism ends up elevating sociopaths because if you're worried about people, if you don't want to exploit them, if you don't want to give them less while you take so much more for yourself, you might not succeed so well in business. If you see people only as a means to your own profit and not as human beings with the same needs and feelings as you, you're not going to regard them well. And the height of that is if you're a sociopath, which means you don't even think about your effect on other people and on the society at large. And actually, that's what every CEO has to do. He has to figure out how to say certain things to get by, but not to care. Of course, it's sociopathic. It's against the needs of the society and the people in it. How can you get rich on the backs of other people while giving them less and worrying less about the conditions of their workplace unless you learn to disregard them in order to make a profit for yourself? That's capitalism.
Today, the Israeli army released about 80 prisoners abducted by Israel, and immediately they went to Al-Aqsa Hospital. Medical resources say they were in very poor health. Today, I met with Dr. Majid, who's a doctor at European Gaza Hospital, which is where many of the prisoners abducted by Israel have returned for health care before this day. He told me that on February 27th, he was responsible for treating about 150 of them.
First, the prisoner release was delayed for about 5 hours. So many of the men I treated were left out in the cold and were freezing because they barely had any clothing. For months, dogs were used to scare them while they were held in narrow, tiny cages. The prisoners I treated were threatened and beaten up by Israeli soldiers for many months. My patients told me that their last night was particularly bad. We had a patient suffering from lung fibrosis, which means his lungs had so much dead tissue that he would likely need to be on oxygen for the rest of his life. Because he had been imprisoned in Israel, he had been prevented from accessing the appropriate amount of oxygen for his case. When I saw him, he was in really bad shape. His face was blue and he needed immediate attention. Another patient had suffered a stroke in the Israeli prison and had been unattended to. This lack of healthcare decreases the range of recovery and he became paralyzed in the right half of his body. His speech was also affected along with his swallowing. Every prisoner had a wristband. Some had multiple, carrying different colors, carrying a serial number for each prisoner. The white one carried a message written in Arabic saying, الشعب الأبدي لن ينسى ما جرى أطارد أعدائي وأمسك بهم. Mortal army won't forget what happened. I chased my enemies and held them captive. It also seemed that the ones with multiple wristbands were beaten up more and in worse shape than others. I remember there was a prisoner who never received treatment for his prostate cancer during his prison stint, which was 13 months, and is still unable to receive any due to the huge shortage of cancer treatment. These are things that are unnatural and unnecessary for people to experience. Many of these men who require repeat surgeries to their bones since they were broken by all the beating and left without help that renders them unable to work and even unable to stand still. The health sector in Gaza is unable to provide much to the prisoners as it's been already falling apart. Now, these guys either reunite with what's left of their families or survive on their own in scattered camps with devastating injuries, struggling to get water and even proper food and any care they deserve. One thing I remember which was particularly hard to understand is that some prisoners told me that the Israeli soldiers lied to them, telling them their entire families were dead, when in some cases they weren't.
Dr. Majid says, as a Palestinian doctor in Gaza, he's had the misfortune of witnessing the many layers of genocide unfold in real time. It's not just the airstrikes or the quadcopters hovering over his head, or the relentless ground raids, though those alone are horrific. It's also the deliberate denial of medical aid, the mass torture of detainees, the engineered starvation of an entire population, and the psychological warfare that never lets up. He says that all of it are different strategies of genocide.
What strikes me most is how systemic it is, how every form of suffering is calculated and sustained. The pain isn't accidental. It's meant to break us, to raise us slowly by stripping away any sense of safety, dignity, or hope. It makes me question the purpose behind all of this unnecessary suffering. Why must people who simply want to live with dignity, with basic human rights, be subjected to such cruelty? What kind of world allows this to happen day after day?
What is happening in Gaza is a holocaust, and Netanyahu and Trump are open about their final intentions, which is the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. If it walks like a fascist, if it talks like a fascist, and if it kills children like a fascist, then it is a bloody fascist. As the son of a Holocaust survivor, I find it difficult to make the Nazi analogy, but over the past 16 or so months, it has been very difficult to watch the genocide in Gaza and not think back to the horrific images of what was done to Jews by the Nazis. It enrages me to see the Holocaust that Israel is committing, justifying it by the Holocaust that was committed against the Jews, including my mother's family. Israel and the West have normalized the killing of children. Israel has now killed over 17,400 children, 1,720 aged 1 or below, babies who were never able to take their first steps. And to call these innocent children enemies or future enemies is to participate in the worst possible form of inhumane, racist white supremacy.
How many civilians have been killed in Gaza, from what you know?
Who gives a shit?
Okay, but don't you feel like, for example, children?
Children grow up to be Arabs.
The majority of Israeli citizens don't regard Palestinians as human beings.
כולם שם מחבלים, לצערי הרב. אבל ילדים, כאילו. לא, אני אומרת בכנות, לא מעניין אותי.
This is the sort of inhumanity that enabled the Holocaust against the Jews and 6 million others to take place.
The natural instinct of a Jewish mother is to protect her child. Palestinian women do not have that.
Just imagine looking at the pictures that we all see every day of slaughtered children, sometimes decapitated, sometimes with their limbs pulled asunder, and supporting these atrocities while thinking and loudly claiming that you are the victim.
Will you hide me? Like, if it comes to that, will you hide me and my family?
There is a psychosis that has overtaken the world, and Sheryl Sandberg is an example of this, who now thinks that America is dangerous for Jews. The reality is that nothing has changed for any of these people, let alone the lives of billionaires who live a life so far removed from any insecurity, material, personal, and it would appear moral, that it's simply absurd. In no sane world is a nuclear-armed, occupying power, armed to the teeth, with the support of the world's superpower, the victim. It is a psychosis of a complete and utter unwillingness to engage with the truth of the world as it is today. And it is only by living in this post-truth world that people can continue to justify their support for the genocide that continues in Palestine day after day after day. 15 medical workers in Gaza were murdered and buried in a mass grave, some of them with their hands tied behind their backs. Israeli soldiers have admitted operating a sub-army of slaves, Palestinians forced to enter homes as human shields before they get taken over by the Israeli army. Israel is using starvation as a weapon of war. It's strange to me that liberals seem to have no problem calling Farage and Trump fascists. But those two have nothing on Netanyahu, who leads an openly and proudly fascist government. What really distresses me as the son of a Holocaust survivor who lost dozens of her family, mainly in Auschwitz, is that none of the myriad institutions created out of the horrors of the Holocaust, none of them are speaking out about this genocide. We see it most palpably in places like Germany and Austria, where German police are beating up Jews who are critical of Israel, where they think any criticism of Israel, even while it is committing a genocide, is unacceptable.
German immigration authorities have ordered the deportation of 4 foreigners for their involvement in pro-Palestinian protests. None of the accused has been convicted of any crimes.
In the US, they attack and arrest their own citizens and make free speech and journalism a crime, and deport people who have the right to be in these countries who have committed no crime whatsoever. In the UK, the Metropolitan Police forced an 87-year-old Holocaust survivor to attend a formal interview at a police station for having the temerity to lay flowers in honor of those who have died in Gaza. The West has a choice: stop supporting genocide or mutate their own democracies and destroy international law forever. The West has chosen the latter.
I gave them Golan Heights. I gave them the Abraham Accords. I recognized the capital of Israel and opened the embassy in Jerusalem. And most importantly of all, I terminated the Iran nuclear deal. I was there 4 years, gave them billions and billions of dollars. I was the best friend Israel ever had.
It used to seem that Israel was America's watchdog in the Middle East. It now seems that Donald Trump is Israel's watchdog in the White House. You have to ask, why are our politicians so enslaved, so subservient to a foreign country? Keir Starmer, my own MP, and David Lammy talk all the time about seeking peace. But why do they do everything in their power to ensure the continuation of the genocide? This includes the provision of huge amounts of weaponry, spare parts and components, the flying of intelligence flights over Gaza by RAF planes and personnel. And Keir Starmer, who wraps himself in the Union Jack at every opportunity, has now conveniently forgotten that 3 British aid workers were murdered by Israel. Whose interests is he serving? While Israel continues to mutate our political class, the vast majority of ordinary people in the West see through this toxic relationship that has normalized this extreme, murderous violence. People are rightly repulsed by seeing yet another Palestinian child pulled out of the rubble with its head missing or its limbs missing. The people will not forgive nor forget, and will one day judge our political leaders and the media class with the disdain and venom they deserve. There has never been a more important time for independent media, not the sanitized version we hear from our corporate media, who seem to have tired of the killing that is taking place in our name. Independent media will never tire of telling and showing the truth. Please support Double Down News on Patreon.
Zionism presupposes two things. One, the Jews are a nationality, not just a religion. And two, Israel is the country of that nationality.
Bear with me because I have a point and it will be worth it. On the 9th of October of 1859, a man was born that was going to change the history of the world, specifically the history of Palestine. His name was Alfred Dreyfus, and he was born in Alsace. The Dreyfuses were French, Jewish, and rich. One of the many examples of Jewish families that had integrated seamlessly into the fabric of French society. Alfred was patriotic, and he decided to become a military officer. In 1894, though, disaster struck. He was arrested for treason, humiliated in the process, and sent off to Devil's Island to live in solitary confinement. All of this happened as a result of a totally baseless accusation. The military tribunal that condemned him didn't have enough evidence to do so. But they leveraged on an European anti-Semitic trope that they knew would resonate. That Jewish people will never be able to hold allegiance to their country because they have allegiances to their religion. This prejudice has been weaponized against Jewish people in Europe for centuries, by the very groups, including the Catholic Church and European monarchs, who used them as scapegoats. When Dreyfus was condemned, he was publicly humiliated. He was stripped of all of his military honors, with a baying crowd chanting anti-Semitic slurs. The case became a flashpoint for the Jewish community around Europe, that had always considered France an example of integration. But the controversy didn't contain itself to the Jewish community. It spread to something as divisive as a Trump election, as Brexit, in which members of the same family stopped speaking with each other and broke relationships on the line of whether they approved of Dreyfus's banishment, or they defended them against the corruption of the army and anti-Semitism. While he was never acquitted because the army was never able to admit that they had done something wrong, despite having actually found the true traitor, Dreyfus was pardoned in 1896 and then exonerated in 1906. One of the people covering the Dreyfus affair was a young Austrian Jewish journalist called Theodor Herzl, who later on went to found the ideology known as Zionism. This is the moment that set the bubble rolling that would end up in where we are today. I wonder what he would think if he saw Israel now. Because one of the biggest victories of the Dreyfus affair was that it put to bed the idea that Jewish people have dual allegiances. They were citizens of the country in which they were born. And if you see the line of argument that Israel has at this moment, they are arguing the exact opposite, as was stated in the beginning of the video. They argue that Jewish people, no matter where they are born, are immediately Israeli, immediately have an allegiance to a country that is not the country in which they live in. That is insane to me because they are using the same argument that the people used to condemn Alfred Dreyfus, a French Jewish citizen, to banishment and humiliation.
One of Donald Trump's top 10 donors just bought a big chunk of Canada's telecoms network, and that means higher bills are likely around the corner. King of Wall Street, Steve Schwarzman, is the richest private equity billionaire on the planet.
Now we've become the largest real estate investor in the world.
His firm, Blackstone, has gobbled up billions in Canadian real estate, and now they want to buy half of Rogers. So what is private equity? They used to be called leveraged buyout firms, or simply vampire capitalists.
Oh, come on, can't you float me? Short term. Hey, don't say short if you don't mean short.
Vampires like Blackstone look for companies like Rogers that are carrying a lot of debt. They buy into the company, temporarily injecting cash, but there are big strings attached.
Okay, fellas, make room. New blood coming in.
The private equity firms bring in their own consultants to squeeze money out of the company by running up lines of credit, firing workers, and charging higher prices. Not great for Canadians who already pay some of the highest phone bills in the world. If Rogers ever went bankrupt, Blackstone could potentially seize their assets, in this case the wires and towers that handle millions of Canadians' private data. And what other strategic infrastructure is Blackstone buying in Canada? LNG. Blackstone is the biggest investor in the proposed Ksylisims terminal and PRGT gas pipeline in BC. That's right, Donald Trump's closest ally on Wall Street is trying to control a strategic energy corridor in a country Trump threatens to annex.
If you want these monstrous, big, beautiful projects to go ahead, you are going to need
a change in government.
Fast-tracking an American-owned LNG terminal that would be built in Korea is a weird way to stand up for Canadian workers. This week, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh sent a letter to Mark Carney asking the Prime Minister to step in and use the Investment Canada Act to block the Blackstone-Rogers deal, because this is the wrong time to let MAGA billionaires take over our economy piece by piece.
They don't spend money on military because they think we're going to protect them.
The Canadian media is starting to wake up to the threat posed by Blackstone and other U.S. private equity companies, but time is running out to stop the vampires.
You're that amped about hell? Go there.
Ask your federal election candidates where they stand on American billionaires taking over our infrastructure in Canada.
Continue to find, not with them when they're Congress people, you find those black leaders when they're 22-year-olds at Oxford, when they're 24-year-olds as a city council president, and you go to them then and say, come to Israel, let us start showing you what this is about.
Is it just, does Israel have us bought out? Are politicians bought out? Do they just hold too much control in Washington, D.C.?
Of course, AIPAC has bought out the Congress, but it's quite interesting, by the way. AIPAC spends maybe this year a few $100 million, and then it gets for Israel tens of billions of dollars, and then it causes the United States to go to war for trillions of dollars. In other words, one thing that I really don't like about our Congress is they sell themselves for nothing. In other words, they've sold American foreign policy for a pittance. AIPAC has the best deal in the world. They multiply their returns 100-fold, 1,000-fold. That's ridiculous. Okay, if AIPAC had to spend trillions of dollars to get trillions of dollars of U.S. spending, it wouldn't happen. Right. But they spend a small amount and they get the trillions. That's the game. It's remarkable. I just don't understand these congressmen really set such a low price for selling American foreign policy.
That's a good insight. I mean, that's the best ROI I've ever heard of. They spend a couple hundred million and get trillions back in return. I mean, it shows you the sad state of the political system inside the U.S. and how corrupt that really is.
In all societies, the workers produce surplus. All workers in all societies produce more than they get. How do different societies organize this? One way to organize this is to have the workers who produce more than they themselves get be the ones to decide what to do with it. That's what I just argued for. That's exactly what I just argued for. The alternatives, you know the names. Slavery. The slave produces everything, gets a part of it back to keep going. The difference is the surplus, which the slave master gets, keeps, and uses as he sees fit. In feudalism, the serf produces more than he gets, and that difference is called the rent collected by the lord, who uses it the way he sees fit. And in capitalism, the worker produces more than he gets as a wage, and the difference is the surplus that the capitalist uses as he sees fit. Marxism is the protest against all systems in which the people who produce the surplus are not the ones who get and dispose of it. It's a fundamental democratic idea. The reason it can't be taught in this country is that if you have a verbal commitment to democracy, you got a real big problem justifying capitalism.
How you and your friends can get more political slowly based on real-life examples. So let's say last week you didn't really do anything related to politics or organizing. Kind of like this. Spend a month or two to try to do some of the stuff on this list. Once you've set a good baseline in this category, spend a few months trying to do something in this category. This category is definitely the most fun. And after a few months of that, try doing some of this stuff. And after who knows how long, try and do some of this stuff. I think this is where we're all going. I put all of this in a Google Doc as well, so you can make a copy of it, save it on your computer, print it out. Usually at the end of videos, people say something inspiring, like a better world is possible or something. Do more politics together. over time.
Today I want to answer one of the most frequently asked questions, and this might probably end up being a long video, which is, how can I help the people of Gaza? The short answer is, only you know how you can help. What we heard recently of Engineer Ibtihad at Microsoft speaking out against genocide and risking years and years of effort and hard work to get into that company, as someone from Gaza, it's something that makes me really, really happy to hear that the world is finally moving and there are people out there who are risking everything. Not just her, but a lot of people out there are actually risking everything for this cause. But as Shayma, it honestly makes me really scared. And the reason for that is, I question myself. What if Shayma could be doing? What if Shayma could be risking? Because in the end, we're all going to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment after this life journey that is pathetic, that is short, that is going to end, and death is more real than ever, especially here in Gaza, as we lived through the genocide and we saw how easy it was for someone to die. I mean, it is as easy for anyone to die anywhere in the world, because wherever you're born, whether you're in Gaza, you're in New York City, in whatever country across the world, you're likely to die, as likely to die as anyone in the world. And the moment you are born, your lifespan is set. Nothing is ever going to make you live 1 second more or less. So when I see these videos and I remember that I'm going to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and He's going to ask me, and He knows that I know. He knows that I know what I can do. And I know what I can do. But maybe I'm too weak to actually make it happen. But then when you think about it, is it really worth it? This pathetic life that we're living, and you know, the moment that we're going to leave this life, which is supposed to be the sweetest moment of our existence. It is supposed to be. Death is always a thought that we always think about, and it's like the grim thought, something that we try to avoid thinking about, when in fact we should be working like crazy every day to prepare for that moment. Every deed we do is going to be our companion in that grave, that we're going to spend far longer time than the time we spend in this pathetic short life. And I hate it when people come up and say, the people of Gaza are heroes. They're the chosen ones. People love them more than us. When in fact, these just sound like excuses. It's like you're saying, oh, the people of Gaza have been put into this dust, so they are able to bear it, when in fact, you don't realize that actually maybe the test of the people in Gaza is actually way, way easier than the test you are being put in. Because in Gaza, we are forced to go through this. And honestly, one of the biggest blessings I always thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for is the fact that I'm here during this time. Because I know it would be much harder to step out of my comfort zone when I'm surrounded by everything. Now, my test is just staying here and being patient to whatever test Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting me through. But your test outside, to be honest, I see it as something that's a lot harder. To leave and risk everything willingly. We're risking things most of the time, you know, it's out of our hands, but we're being patient. But you have to do it willingly, and this is your test. But it is worth it because you know you're preparing for a big moment. The moment you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the moment you meet the angels and they reassure you and tell you that you can finally rest in peace because your life was full of good deeds and you finally deserve to actually rest in peace. May Allah make us all live these moments, and for these moments to actually be the sweetest, most beautiful moments any of us get. Assalamu alaikum.
Dialogue is oppressors' call for me to sugarcoat my tongue so that the sweetness of lopsided conversation overpowers the vinegary burn of truth. My oppressor doesn't even like when I call them my oppressor. That's just so mean and not conducive to conversation. They prefer to be called softer names like please sir and excuse me and do we deserve our rights yet? They tell us the softer our voices, the better we will be heard. The gentler our tone, the better we can converse, negotiate, dialogue about whether our oppression even exists Or if maybe brown women are just born angry because our mother's wounds are shaped like guns, so we must be the bullet, screeching through space, angry about nothing, yelling about everything, refusing to compromise, refusing to barter for liberation. But isn't that what freedom is all about? Negotiating your humanity, setting a time, date, and comfortable tone for liberation. Isn't that how we became these United States? Group chats with the Brits. Isn't that how the Nazis were defeated the first time? By inviting them to speak at our universities. My oppressor demands dialogue because they can say it's all about conversation. So no one will question how it only produces silence.
Zionists are just not intelligent creatures. And it's like a community-wide issue, just a severe lack of intelligence. Bro, ceasefire was like fucking January. I've got Zionists on the daily, in my comments, in my fucking DMs being like, just hand over the hostages and tell Hamas to step down. My guy, Hamas has been saying since before the ceasefire, we don't want to rule the strip. They've been having negotiations in Cairo, in Doha, before the ceasefire, being like, we don't want to rule the strip. Let's just get this shit over with. You know what you need for that? A fucking ceasefire. Israel doesn't want a ceasefire. Israel broke the ceasefire. Israel doesn't want its hostages back. Israel doesn't particularly care whether Hamas is in the strip or not. Israel wants to annihilate Palestinians. I don't know what to do for you. Like, I don't know how the fuck to make you have the ability to comprehend what is happening. Your guy doesn't care about the hostages. They bombed the fucking Red Cross compound, my guy. The Red Cross is responsible for every single Israeli hostage that went back to Israel. I cannot do critical thinking 101. If your brain is incapacitated, if you cannot understand that if you bomb the guy who was giving you back your hostages, you're not going to get back your hostages. Like, what do you want me to do? Give back the hostages. Was already doing that. Tell Hamas to stop governing the strip. Was already doing that. What do you want me to do? Change facts for you? You're just on the wrong side. Your guy said literally in public, we are implementing Donald Trump's plan to get Palestinians the fuck out of Palestine. What do you want me to do? You're just on the wrong side. You're just on the non-thinking side. You are delusional. What do you want me to do? You stupid fuck.
Policy of truth, true energy. That's what we are here. Truth, clarity, and justice. It will always be on this energy. If you don't like it, you can go. I already seen a lot of people leave. Yo, it's fine. The people who want the truth, who want empathy, who want to nurture, who want a different world, who want change, who want to focus on real change and system change, and focus also on reducing CO2 and climate change, and fuck these motherfucking billionaires and oligarchs, they're gonna stay and learn and be educated and do better than these motherfuckers. Because by the way, low IQ, it's also not just the politicians, okay? Okay? Yeah. So I love you guys. Free Palestine, free Congo, free Sudan. Continue sharing, continue checking my Telegram. Okay, I'll be posting. I'm always posting the evidence there. Check out my Instagram, IG. I will post videos that are not doing so well here on YouTube. I will post it there, and please help me out to share and continue staying over here. Okay, those of you, thank you so much for your donations on my PayPal. I really appreciate it. It does help this channel. It does help me to continue, especially with all the shit that's going on in the background. For now, I'm not only going to start donating to the organizations that I have on my Linktree. If you check it out, there's some families there that need help. That would be nice if you help them out. But also I want to donate to law organizations and facilities, especially here in Canada, for those who need, like, to bail out on protesters and stuff like that, people who are doing the work that need, legal assistance. Okay, so I'm gonna be doing that as well. So if you want to join me, you can even say when you put in your donation to give to the legal people or legal organizations, and I will be doing that if you want. But you can also do your research and do it yourself, okay? But if you are interested and you want to donate just for that, and you want to say, okay, Angie, like you said, I don't know which organization I don't really know much, but I'm willing to give some money for this. And also, if you want to donate for me to donate to the GoFundMe, I'll do it, okay? But you can do it yourself too, okay? I love you guys. I gotta go, but do the right thing, okay? Love you. Bye.